You're welcome to today's episode of Chronicles of a Nigerian Woman. My name is Fagbeja, and today I'll be reading Mary's story. This is the story of a life-changing moment in my life, a near miss that could so easily have gone wrong. I was brought up in a conservative religious home. We weren't allowed to go out much, and the fear of evil deeds was drummed into our ears from a young age. We were 3. I have an older sister and an older brother, so I am the last born, and we were each born about 2 years apart. In our home, you followed instructions, you didn't argue, and you definitely did not complain. My siblings were role model children and did everything my parents said, even behind their back. By 14, my sister was one of the coordinators of the Teens Fellowship in our church, even though she had only been a part of it for over a year. She seemed to me like she had been old forever. My brother joined the youth choir at the age of 10, voluntarily, not that he was coerced. Everyone called him pastor because he knew so many verses of scripture by heart and could pray down a storm. I, however, was the rebel, albeit quietly so. I was daring and bold and questioned everything. Since I couldn't speak up for the fear of rebuke, I found quiet ways to do my bidding, like sneaking out of my classes in school, hiding romantic novels between my school books, etc. I was bold enough to try more risky actions, but the problem was that I found out that it was always at the time I decided to try something my friends had been doing for a long time that something would go wrong. It happened quite a few times that I would get into trouble in school, but thankfully, nothing serious enough to have them call my parents. So, they didn't really know about that other side of me. They knew I wasn't as calm as the others, but I was somehow able to hide the extent of my adventurous nature. My parents wanted us all to go to university in Ilorin where we lived, and my older siblings did. I, however, changed my school choice to the Lagos State University before submitting my JAMB form, unbeknownst to my dad, who had gone over the form with me the day before. We filled it all in pencil, and he just asked me to go over it with a pen before he sent his driver to take me to submit it. That was when I took the opportunity to change my school of first choice. When the results came out, my parents were surprised that I was given LASU instead of Unilorin, but I just pretended that I was a victim of circumstances. There was nothing they could do about it, so they just accepted, even though they weren't really happy. And so I left Ilorin for Lagos, happy to be free. It was in the second semester of my first year that something happened, and it changed my outlook to life completely. I had never attended one of the overnight club parties before because no one had invited me to one, and also because even if I was invited, I had nothing to wear. My wardrobe was full of conservative, simple dresses, definitely not trousers. On the day in question, a guy who had been on my case for a while invited me to one of those parties. He was going with a group of friends in one of their cars. I was so excited. I told my roommates, and they rallied to find me something to wear. A pair of leggings, which were in vogue at the time, a nice t-shirt, and some clogs. I looked so nice. My male friend picked me up around 11:30 p.m. We were in a convoy of 3 cars. It was a rainy night, so visibility was reduced, but the guy driving the car ahead of us, which was the first car in the convoy, was not being careful at all. He kept speeding and falling into potholes. The person driving our car kept trying to caution him by honking, but he didn't listen. We had driven about 15 minutes and were almost at our destination when we suddenly saw lights facing us from a vehicle in the distance. It all happened in a split second. The car ahead of us tried to screech to a halt, but it was too late and it crashed headlong into the oncoming truck. It was over 20 years ago, but I still hear so clearly the crunching of metals. We all screamed and stopped our car. Of the 5 people in that car, the 2 people in front died instantly, and the 3 at the back were in a critical condition. I was shaking like a leaf being blown by the wind. 1,000 thoughts went through my head in a few seconds. First, I heard my mom's voice saying, "Mary, be careful," as she quoted Proverbs chapter 1 verse 10 to me before I left home for school. My parents would pass out if they knew I was out of school at such an unholy hour. Our gates at home were closed by 8 p.m. and that was only because we went for church meetings most evenings. I was sobbing loudly, and my friends thought it was the shock of seeing the state of those that were injured. But it was me getting my wake-up call and knowing that I had just escaped death by whiskers. In fact, my male friend had arrived at my hostel in the car that had the accident, but there wasn't enough space for both of us, so we joined the second car. That incident changed my perspective completely. It suddenly dawned on me that many of the activities I wanted to explore were mundane and held no lasting reward other than momentary pleasure. I started to search for and devote myself to deeper meaning. I committed my life to God and His service since then, and I never looked back. I was 18 at the time, and my life has been so much richer. I came to realize that the rules and cautions God puts in place are not just to deter us from enjoying life, but to help us do so within safe boundaries. This is the perspective I try to pass on to teens as I am passionate about them. I have shared this a couple of times, but it honestly isn't a story I like to remember. But for the grace of God, I would have been one of those in that car. I have never shared the story with my parents, by the way. Please share your thoughts about Mary's story in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos.